The deep silence of space was broken by a soft hum. A lonely rescue drone drifting through the darkness. Inside the small metallic pod, sensors blinked weakly, scanning for signs of life. There was something inside, something breathing. When the pod was pulled aboard the research ship Aurora's Hope, no one expected to find a living creature. The crew gathered around as the pod doors opened with a hiss. Inside, wrapped in a strange glowing fabric, was a small creature no one had ever seen before. It had soft, silver fur that shimmered like moonlight and eyes that changed color every few seconds. It was neither reptile nor mammal. Something in between, delicate yet full of energy. Dr. Lyra Voss, the ship's xenobiologist, stepped forward first. She was known across the Galactic Union for her calm nature and her curiosity about all living things. Her brown hair was tied in a loose braid, and her eyes carried the tired focus of someone who had spent too many years in the void, studying things no one else dared to touch. When she looked at the creature, she didn't see a lab subject. She saw a mystery. "It's scared," she said softly. "Let's give air and space." The little creature blinked up at her, trembling. Then, to everyone's surprise, it let out a soft chirp and climbed onto her gloved hand. It was warm. Impossibly warm for something found in frozen space. Captain Renard, standing behind her, frowned. "Be careful, Doctor. We don't know what that thing is." Lyra smiled faintly. "That's the point, Captain. We're here to learn." She carried the creature to the observation lab, placing it gently on a padded table. It tilted its head, studying her movements as if it understood. When she stepped back, it followed her with its eyes. Then it made a sound, a series of melodic clicks, and her wrist communicator suddenly displayed a translation temp. "Where am I?" The crew stared. It wasn't just alive, it was intelligent. Days passed. Lyra named it Nairi. The name came from an old human story about a light that guided lost travelers home. Nairi learned fast, faster than anything she had ever studied. It mimicked speech, copied gestures, and showed deep emotions. When anyone felt sad or tired near it, Nairi would change color, glow with gentle golden light that made people feel calm. Soon, even the strict captain found himself visiting the lab, just to watch it play. But Nairi was more than playful. It seemed to have a strange power, a kind of emotional connection. The reptilian engineer, the insectoid medic, even the ship's artificial intelligence all reacted to it differently. Somehow, Nairi made each being feel understood. One day, Lyra watched as Nairi sat quietly beside a wounded crew member. The alien's broken arm began to heal faster, the pain levels dropping on the monitor. It wasn't magic. It was empathy made real. Lyra whispered to herself, "You don't just learn, do you? You feel." Word spread quickly. Scientists from nearby systems sent messages to study this strange being. They called it the universal pet. But Lyra didn't like that name. Nairi wasn't a pet. It was something more, something that connected hearts without needing words. As the ship traveled through new systems, Nairi met beings from other worlds. A giant six-eyed alien from the Bractor system, a mistborn creature from Aurelia, even a crystalline life form that communicated through sound waves. Nairi bonded with them all. Every encounter ended the same way, with laughter, peace, or quiet joy. No one had ever seen such a thing. Wars between species paused briefly whenever Nairi was present. Enemies shared meals. Old wounds healed. The Galactic Union soon sent word to the Aurora's Hope. They wanted Nairi brought to the central research hub. Lyra was proud but worried. She knew the galaxy's curiosity could also be cruel. Still, she had no choice. When they arrived, thousands gathered to see the creature. Cameras, lights, and voices filled the air. Nairi, sitting on Lyra's shoulder, seemed calm until the first flash went off. It hissed softly, gripping her coat. "It's okay," she whispered. "They just want to see you." Nairi made a low sound, uncertain. Then, as the tall alien approached, it leapt onto their arm, chirping with delight. The crowd gasped as Nairi's body changed color again, deep blue this time, matching the alien's skin tone. Within moments, it learned the alien's gestures and began mimicking them perfectly. The alien laughed, a rough, booming sound, and Nairi responded with a smaller version of the same laugh. The audience melted into applause. Over the following weeks, Nairi met dozens of species. Each time, it adapted in shape, sound, and even emotion. It seemed to mirror whoever it was with, becoming exactly what they needed. Some said it was evolution's greatest miracle. Others called it a living reflection of unity. But late one night, after the crowds were gone and the lab was quiet, Lyra noticed something strange. Nairi sat alone in its enclosure, looking out at the stars. Its usual bright colors were gone. It looked gray. She walked over softly. "What's wrong, little one?" Nairi turned to her slowly, eyes dim. "Home," it said in a faint voice. Lyra froze. It had never asked that before. She reached out gently, letting it climb onto her arm again. "We'll find it," she promised. "I'll help you." Outside the window, the stars burned quietly. Somewhere out there, Nairi's true home waited. Or maybe it didn't exist at all. But Lyra didn't know yet that Nairi's search wouldn't end among the stars. It would end much closer, with a creature far more mysterious than any alien world. A human. Nairi became a name known across the stars. Within months, news channels, research networks, and even children's programs spoke of the strange, gentle creature from the void. They called it the Universal Companion. Everywhere it went, peace followed. Entire planets invited Dr. Lyra Voss and Nairi to visit. The Galactic Union claimed it was for scientific study. But Lyra knew the truth. They wanted to feel that calm, that quiet happiness Nairi seemed to carry wherever it went. On the journey between worlds, Lyra often sat beside Nairi in the observation bay. The creature loved to watch the stars, pressing its small hands against the glass, as if trying to remember where it came from. Sometimes it would mimic the blinking lights of the distant suns, glowing and dimming in perfect rhythm. Lyra smiled every time. "You like showing off, don't you?" she said softly. Nairi chirped and leaned against her arm, the translator humming faintly before displaying a single word. "Friend." Lyra's chest tightened. In all her years studying alien life, she had never heard that word spoken with such honesty. The Union began its first official Nairi exchange program. Nairi would spend a few weeks with one species at a time, allowing researchers to study how it connected across different biologies. Lyra traveled everywhere with it. On the water world of Alvaris, Nairi learned to swim with the aquatic Dranar. It grew web fingers and gills overnight, mimicking their movements like a natural-born swimmer. The Dranar elders cried. They said Nairi's presence healed their youngest who suffered from fear of open water. On the volcanic planet Rokar, the reptilian warrior clans claimed Nairi taught them patience. It rested on their massive, scaled arms as they trained, humming softly until even the most aggressive fighters felt peace. Everywhere it adapted perfectly. Every world called it one of us. But Lyra noticed something strange. Each time Nairi returned from a stay, it seemed a little quieter, a little more tired. The spark in its eyes dimmed, only to flare again when she entered the room. "You miss me when I'm gone?" she asked once, half joking. Nairi looked at her and said, "Always." She froze. The translator showed no glitch, no delay, just that one word. The scientist and the secret. Back on the Union's main research station, Lyra reviewed thousands of data logs. Every reading confirmed the same pattern. Nairi's emotional energy peaked only when near her. The graphs showed clear proof of some kind of bond, but she didn't share this data. She knew what the council would do if they saw it. They'd isolate Nairi, experiment on it, maybe even clone it. She leaned back in her chair, sighing. "You're more than science, aren't you?" Nairi sat on the desk, eyes glowing faintly blue. "Lyra sad?" it asked. "No," she lied with a tired smile. "Just thinking." The creature tilted its head and reached out with one small hand, touching her cheek. Warmth spread through her face, and for a moment she forgot the cold walls around them. How could something so alien feel so human? The Galactic Union planned a huge event, the Unity Celebration. Every species would gather to witness Nairi's universal harmony. Lyra hated the idea. It sounded like a circus show, but she couldn't stop it. When the day came, thousands filled the arena. The crowd shimmered with colors, scales, fur, and energy forms. The air buzzed with excitement as Nairi walked to the center platform. Lyra stood backstage, watching nervously. The announcer's voice echoed. "Behold, the creature that loves all species equally, the living symbol of galactic peace." Nairi looked up, blinking at the crowd. Its skin changed colors again and again, blue for the Trelax, green for the Yeren, gold for the Vori. Every species cheered as their color appeared. Then Nairi's eyes turned white, glowing bright. It spoke in a soft, clear tone, translated across 1,000 devices. "You all kind." But the voice broke. Nairi paused. Empty. A hush fell over the arena. Lyra felt a chill. She had never heard that tone before. Nairi turned its head toward the crowd, looking lost. "Home," it said again, the same word it had whispered to her that night on the ship. After the event, Nairi refused to perform any more demonstrations. It ignored scientists, refused to eat, and only responded when Lyra entered the room. It no longer changed color or form. The research team was confused. "It's like the creature's shutting down," one said. "Maybe it needs a new environment." But Lyra knew it wasn't the environment. It was loneliness, the kind that came from knowing everyone, but belonging nowhere. That night, she found Nairi sitting by the window again, staring at the stars. "You miss something, don't you?" Nairi turned slowly. "Not something," it said softly. "Someone." Lyra's breath caught. She didn't understand, not yet, but deep inside, she felt the same strange emptiness. Weeks passed. Nairi grew weaker. The council demanded that it be transferred to another team for better observation. Lyra refused. "You don't understand," she argued. "It's not sick, it's sad." But the Union didn't believe in sadness as science. On the final day before the transfer, Lyra held Nairi close, whispering, "I promise I'll find a way to help you." Nairi's eyes flickered with faint light. "Fine, human," it said suddenly. Lyra blinked. "What?" But before she could ask again, the guards entered to escort them to the transport bay. As they walked down the long corridor, Nairi looked up at her one last time. "Human," it whispered. Lyra didn't know why that word mattered. Not yet, but soon. She would learn that the creature's search for peace was never meant to end among the stars. It was meant to end with humanity. The Galactic Union's research station was always filled with noise. Translators humming, ships docking, and scientists debating endlessly about what made life special. But today, there was a quiet excitement. For the first time in history, humans were invited to join the interspecies study program. Many alien scholars whispered doubts. Humans were too young, too emotional, too unpredictable. They were known for passion and chaos, not logic and peace. Dr. Lyra Voss didn't know much about them either. She had read reports, seen their broadcasts, but had never met one in person. Still, She found herself curious. Humans were said to feel emotions in ways no other species could. Maybe that was why Nairi had said that word. Human, before its last sleep cycle. It was strange, but Lyra couldn't stop thinking about it. When the humans arrived, the entire station gathered in the docking bay. A small group of 6 stepped out, wearing light suits marked with the blue insignia of Earth. The leader, a tall woman with dark hair tied in a bun, smiled politely. Dr. Alara Hayes. She introduced herself. Her voice carried warmth even through the translator's metallic tone. Biologist and behavior specialist. Lyra stepped forward, offering her hand. Welcome to the Union, Dr. Hayes. I'm Lyra Voss. Alara shook her hand firmly, eyes shining with curiosity. Thank you. I've heard a lot about your work and about your companion. Lyra glanced at the small transport case beside her. Inside, Nairi stirred weakly, eyes half open. It hasn't been doing well, Lyra admitted softly. It hasn't spoken much since the Unity celebration. Alara leaned closer, peering through the transparent case. Is that it? She asked quietly. Nairi blinked once, its dull gray for reflecting the station lights. Then, as if drawn by something unseen, it slowly reached a hand toward the glass, staring directly at the human. The translator flickered, trying to read faint sounds coming from Nairi. A single word appeared on the hologram. Found. The crowd fell silent. Lyra's pulse quickened. Nairi, what do you mean? She whispered. But the creature didn't answer. It simply kept staring at Alara, unblinking, unmoving. Then, for the first time in weeks, it changed color, a soft golden hue spreading through its body like sunrise. Captain Renard, standing nearby, frowned. Is that safe? Lyra didn't respond. She couldn't look away. The readings on her wrist device spiked. Energy levels were climbing faster than ever before. Whatever was happening wasn't dangerous. It was connection. When they brought Nairi to the lab, it refused to stay in its containment sphere. It pressed against the glass until Lyra opened it. Without hesitation, it climbed out and settled in Alara's lap, curling up like it had known her forever. Alara froze, unsure whether to move. It's warm, she said softly. Nairi made a low sound, a kind of hum that resonated through the air. Lights on nearby machines flickered gently in rhythm with the sound. Heart rate monitors synchronized. Alara's heartbeat and Nairi's pulse matched perfectly. Everyone in the room stared. Lyra's voice shook. It's never done that before. Alara looked down at the creature. What's it doing? I don't know, Lyra admitted, but it's choosing you. The next few days brought more surprises. Nairi refused to eat unless Alara was nearby. It followed her everywhere, mimicking her movements, echoing her words in a soft, playful tone. When she laughed, it glowed brighter. When she frowned, it dimmed. The translators detected no stress signals, only contentment. Lyra watched from the sidelines, torn between wonder and confusion. Nairi had bonded with hundreds of species before, but never like this. This wasn't imitation. This was devotion. One evening, as the station lights dimmed for night cycle, Alara sat in the observation bay with Nairi asleep on her shoulder. The stars outside shimmered like frozen fire. You've seen a lot, haven't you? She whispered to it. All those species, all those worlds. But why me? Nairi stirred, opening one glowing eye. The translator flickered once before showing a single word. Real. Alara blinked, confused. Real. The creature placed its small hand over her heart and whispered softly. You real. Alara didn't know what to say. She just sat there, feeling that gentle warmth spread across her chest. For a long moment, it felt like the entire universe had gone quiet. When Lyra joined them later, She found Alara still awake, stroking Nairi's fur. "It won't sleep unless I stay," Alara said with a tired smile. "It's like it's afraid I'll disappear." Lyra nodded slowly. "It's never trusted anyone that deeply. Not even me. Maybe it sees something in humans that we don't see ourselves," Alara said softly. "Something it's been searching for." Lyra watched the stars. Or maybe it found what it was made to find. The next morning, the council demanded data. They wanted to know why Nairi's energy readings had increased by 300% since bonding with the human. Lyra tried to explain that it wasn't science. It was emotion, but they dismissed her theory. To them, emotion was chemical. To Nairi, it was something far greater. Later that day, the council announced their decision. Nairi would be separated from Alara for study. The words hit like ice. Alara protested, but orders were orders. Guards arrived to escort her away. As she turned to leave, Nairi screeched, a sound no one had ever heard before. Lights flickered across the lab as it thrashed, desperate to reach her. Its glow faded, its breathing slowed. Alara shouted, "Stop this! You're hurting it!" But they pulled her out. Lyra stood frozen. She saw it in Nairi's eyes, not anger, not fear. It was heartbreak. By the time the doors closed, Nairi had curled into a trembling ball, whispering a word so soft only the translator caught it. "Don't go." That night, the entire station seemed quieter. Machines ran slower. The air felt heavy. And somewhere deep in the laboratory, a small creature lay still, waiting for the one being who made it feel alive. A human. The separation order was final. No one could argue with the Galactic Council once their decision was made. To them, emotion was data, not danger. To Lyra Voss, it felt like betrayal. She watched as the guards carried Nairi into a sealed chamber of glass and light. The creature's eyes glowed faintly, following Alara until the last possible moment. When the doors closed, the glow disappeared. The lab fell quiet. Machines beeped softly, and every sound seemed too loud in the silence that followed. Alara stood still, her hands shaking. "You can't keep it locked up," she said. "It's not a specimen, it's alive." The chief scientist, a gray-skinned being from the Vori system, turned toward her. "It's for observation. We need to know what caused that surge in its readings. It's our duty to science." Alara clenched her jaw. "Then your science has no heart." Lyra stepped forward quickly before the argument could turn into a shouting match. "Please," she said, "let's just focus on keeping it stable." Inside the chamber, Nairi floated weakly in midair, surrounded by scanners. Its color had faded to pale silver. It didn't move or speak. When the lights dimmed for night's cycle, it just curled into itself, small and quiet. For 2 days, nothing changed. It refused food and ignored every voice except Alara's. Whenever she spoke through the communicator, its pulse rose. When she stopped, it slowed again. The connection was undeniable. On the 3rd day, Lyra entered the council's briefing room, holding a tablet filled with new readings. "You need to end the separation," she said firmly. "Its life signs are collapsing. Whatever link it has with Dr. Hayes, it's vital for its survival." The council members whispered among themselves. The lead delegate, a crystalline being that spoke in tones instead of words, hummed low. "Are you saying the human's presence keeps it alive?" "Yes," Lyra replied. "Whatever Nairi is, it doesn't just bond emotionally. It bonds biologically. Separating them is killing it." After a long silence, the delegate replied, "1 more day. If the readings worsen, we will reconsider. 1 more day." Lyra returned to the lab, furious and helpless. Alara was there already, standing beside the glass, her eyes red from lack of sleep. "It keeps calling for me," she said quietly. Not in words, but I feel it, like it's pulling me inside. Lyra sighed. I know. Just hold on. We might get permission tomorrow. But by midnight, Nairi's glow had almost disappeared completely. Its breathing grew shallow. The machines beeped faster, warning of energy loss. Ilara pressed her hand against the glass. Nairi, listen to me. I'm here. You're not alone. No reaction. Then, suddenly, the translator flickered alive with weak signals. 3 broken words appeared on the hologram. Cold. Empty. Human. Ilara gasped. Please, open the door, she begged. It's dying. Lyra hesitated only a moment before disabling the safety locks. The chamber opened with a hiss, and she ran inside. The moment Ilara stepped in, Nairi moved. Its small head lifted weakly, and the faintest glow returned to its fur. She knelt beside it, picking it up gently. Hey there, she whispered. I'm right here. Nairi's tiny hand reached up, pressing against her throat as if feeling her heartbeat. The monitors around them spiked with light. The entire lab brightened as though the walls themselves had caught fire. Lyra covered her eyes. Energy surge, she shouted, but her voice was drowned by the hum of power filling the room. Nairi's body shimmered gold. The weak breathing turned steady, strong. It was healing right before their eyes. Ilara held it close, tears running down her cheeks. You're safe now, you little star, she whispered. The hum faded. The glow settled. And when the air finally cleared, Nairi was asleep, peaceful, alive, and breathing softly in her arms. Lyra exhaled slowly, staring at the monitors. Incredible, she said. It's not just empathy. It's synchronization. You two are linked at a level I can't explain. Ilara looked at the sleeping creature. Maybe it's not supposed to be explained. When the council arrived the next morning, they found Nairi awake and alert again. The delegates exchanged uncertain looks. Lyra presented the data, without a word. It survived only after reuniting with Dr. Hayes, she said. You can't deny the results. The crystalline delegate hummed for a long moment. Perhaps it has chosen. Ilara frowned. Chosen? Every species it bonded with before. It adapted to them. It changed its body, its color, its language. But now it has stopped adapting. It remains as it is. That means one thing. It found what it was searching for. Lyra glanced at Nairi, who was now perched calmly on Ilara's shoulder. And what's that? She asked. The delegate's voice rang like glass, a reflection of its soul. For days after the reunion, Nairi refused to leave Ilara's side. It followed her through every corridor, sat beside her at every meal, and even mimicked the way she tilted her head when thinking. The entire station whispered about it. Some called it love. Others called it dependency. But no one could deny the bond. At night, when Ilara worked late, Nairi would curl up beside her datapads, humming softly as if to keep her company. The sound was peaceful, but under that peace, Lyra sensed something deeper, a quiet fear of loss. One evening, as they watched the stars together, Ilara turned to Lyra. Do you think it understands what love is? Lyra smiled faintly. Maybe it's the only one who truly does. Nairi lifted its head, eyes bright and steady, and whispered one word, clear as light through glass. Forever. The two women froze. Outside the window, the stars shimmered. Inside the lab, the creature that had once bonded with every species in the galaxy finally rested in the arms of the one being it would never leave, a human. The calm didn't last long. Peace rarely did on the galactic station. After Nairi's recovery, the council began to grow nervous. They didn't like what they couldn't control. To them, the bond between a human and a being from beyond the stars was a miracle. It was a risk. Meetings filled with cold logic replaced moments of wonder. Charts, graphs, and arguments filled the halls. Lyra Voss watched helplessly as the council discussed Nairi as if it were a malfunctioning machine. "This attachment," said one delegate, his scaled face lit by the blue of the hollow table, "is unpredictable. What happens if the creature becomes aggressive? What if it learns too much from a human?" Ilara sat across from them, her hands clenched into fists. "It isn't dangerous. It's alive. It feels. You've seen the data. It heals. It connects. It's not a threat." The crystalline delegate's voice rang like cold glass. "You can't prove it won't be." The vote was quick. By morning, the order was signed. Nairi was to be relocated to a secure research division. Ilara was to be reassigned to human liaison duty, far away from the containment zone. When the guards arrived at her quarters, Ilara didn't resist. She just stood there, holding the tiny creature against her chest. "It won't understand," she whispered. "It's for the good of the Union," one of them said mechanically. Nairi clung to her shirt, eyes wide and bright with fear. It chirped softly, trying to speak, but the translator couldn't keep up. The device only produced one word again and again: "Stay." Ilara's throat tightened. "I can't," she whispered. "They won't let me." When they pulled Nairi away, it screamed. The sound wasn't loud. It was deep, like something breaking inside every person who heard it. Even the guards flinched. The lights flickered across the corridor as the creature fought to reach her. But the door sealed shut before it could escape. Ilara sank to her knees, shaking. She could still hear Nairi's cries echoing down the hall long after the sound had stopped. Days passed. The station's lights seemed dimmer, the atmosphere heavier. In the isolation chamber, Nairi refused to eat or sleep. It sat against the cold glass, trembling. Its color faded to a pale gray, the same shade it had been when found drifting through space. Scientists tried everything: temperature changes, different sounds, new environments. Nothing worked. Lyra watched from the other side of the glass, her heart sinking lower with each new test. The readings were clear. Nairi's energy levels were collapsing. Its body temperature had dropped almost to freezing. When the lead researcher, a stiff-voiced android, announced that the subject's decline is terminal, Lyra slammed her hand against the table. "It's not a subject," she shouted. "It's dying because you took away the only thing keeping it alive." But the android only tilted its head. "Emotion is not data. Correlation does not prove causation." Lyra turned away, disgusted. "You wouldn't understand." That night, unable to sleep, she made her way back to the lab. The guards were gone. Only the quiet hum of machines filled the air. Nairi lay motionless inside the chamber, small and colorless. For the first time, Lyra felt afraid. "Nairi," she whispered through the glass. "I know you can hear me. Please hold on. I'll bring her back." The creature didn't move. Only the faint flicker of its chest showed it was still alive. Lyra didn't wait for permission. She ran to the communications terminal and called Ilara's ship. "You need to come back," she said breathlessly. "It's dying." There was a long silence. Then Ilara's voice came through, quiet, cracked. They said, "I'm not allowed anywhere near the lab." Lyra gritted her teeth. "Then don't ask. Just come." Hours later, alarms blared across the station. A small human shuttle had breached the docking bay without authorization. Lyra rushed to the lab just as Ilara burst through the doors, hair loose, eyes wild. The guard shouted after her, but she didn't stop. When Nairi saw her, something sparked. Its gray fur shimmered faintly, like the first breath of dawn. Ilara pressed her hand against the glass. "I'm here," she whispered. "I'm sorry I left you." Nairi moved weakly toward her. The translator flickered. Cold. Scared. "Home." Her voice broke. "Yes, home. I'm here." Lyra overrode the security locks with trembling fingers. The chamber hissed open, and Alara rushed in. She gathered Nairi into her arms, holding it close against her chest. Instantly, light exploded around them, pure gold filling the room. The monitors went wild. Energy readings shot off the scale. The air vibrated with a strange, warm hum that spread through the station. Crew members in nearby corridors stopped what they were doing, turning toward the source. They didn't know why, but tears filled their eyes. For a brief moment, everyone felt it: peace, love, connection. When the light faded, Nairi was breathing again. Its colors returned, soft blues and gentle golds. It pressed its face against Alara's neck, humming quietly. Lyra watched, speechless. "It doesn't just bond," she whispered. "It lives through it." The guards stood frozen. None of them dared to interrupt. Alara looked up, tears shining. "You see? This isn't science. This is life. It chose us." The crystalline delegate arrived moments later, their voice trembling for the first time. "What have we witnessed?" Lyra turned toward them. Not a weapon, not a tool, a heart. The delegate stared through the glass at the glowing creature, now calm in a human's arms. "Perhaps," it said slowly, "we were the ones being studied all along." That night, the alarms went silent. The station felt warm again. In the lab, Alara sat quietly with Nairi curled against her shoulder, its light reflecting in her eyes. "Sleep, little one," she whispered. "You're safe now." Nairi murmured softly, half asleep. The translator flickered one last time. "Love stays." And for the first time in a very long while, even among 1,000 stars, love truly did. The station never felt the same after that night. The light seemed softer, the air warmer, and even the hum of the engines carried a strange calm. Everyone had felt it, that wave of warmth that had swept through every corridor when Nairi and Alara reunited. Some called it energy feedback. Others called it magic. But deep down, they all knew it was something more. Lyra stood by the observation window, watching the two through the glass. Alara sat at the edge of a medical cot, holding Nairi close. The creature's fur glowed gently in gold and blue patterns that pulsed like a heartbeat. For the first time in weeks, its breathing was steady. "She hasn't slept," Lyra muttered to the medic beside her. "Neither of them have." The medic, a tall insectoid with bright lenses for eyes, clicked softly. "Perhaps they don't need to. They are synchronized." Lyra smiled faintly. "That's what I'm afraid of." Inside the room, Alara gently brushed a hand over Nairi's back. "You scared me," she whispered. "You really did." Nairi tilted its head up, blinking slowly. The translator flickered. "Sorry." Alara laughed through tears. "Don't you start learning guilt now." Nairi chirped, a soft musical sound, and rested its head against her shoulder again. Days passed, and Nairi grew stronger. It started exploring the lab again, though it rarely moved far from Alara. When she walked, it followed. When she spoke, it listened. But there was something new in its behavior now. Stillness. It no longer tried to mimic everyone it met. It didn't change color or shape. It stayed the same golden hue, soft and calm. Lyra noticed first. "It stopped adapting," she said during a council report. "That's never happened before." The crystalline delegate turned slightly. "What does that mean?" "It means," Lyra said carefully, "it doesn't need it any more. It's found where it belongs." The council chamber fell silent. Even the android archivist paused its typing. Alara, standing beside her, spoke quietly. "It's like it doesn't want to be everything anymore. It just wants to be itself." The delegate's crystal facets caught the light. "Perhaps it has achieved what we never have: peace." But not everyone agreed. Some scientists whispered that the bond was dangerous. Others claimed that humans had somehow reprogrammed it. The idea of a single being connecting life across species terrified them more than it amazed them. Lyra ignored the noise. She saw something no data could measure: joy. That night, she visited Alara's quarters. Nairi was curled up in its usual spot, glowing softly beside the bed. "It hums when it sleeps," Lyra said, smiling. "It does that every night now," Alara said, "like it's dreaming." Lyra sat beside her. "Do you ever wonder why it chose you?" Alara hesitated. "At first, I thought it was just biology, something about human energy or emotion. But the more I'm around it, the more I think it's not about what we have. It's about what we give." Lyra frowned. "What do you mean?" "Every other species it met gave it love through instinct, through survival, through shared need. But humans," she paused, searching for words, "humans can choose to love, even when it hurts, even when it's not logical. Maybe that's what it saw in us, the choice." Lyra leaned back slowly. "Love is a decision, not a reflex." Alara smiled faintly. "Exactly." Weeks turned into months. Nairi became a symbol of peace once again, but now the story was different. It wasn't about a creature that could love everyone. It was about one that chose to love one person, completely. When Union delegates visited, Nairi greeted them politely but always returned to Alara's side. The bond had become legendary. Some scientists tried to copy it with machines and brain links, but nothing came close. Whatever existed between human and alien in that small lab was beyond technology. One evening, during a quiet power cycle, Lyra recorded an interview for the Union archives. Alara sat across from her with Nairi perched on her shoulder, glowing faintly. Lyra adjusted the recorder. "This is Dr. Lyra Voss, documenting the ongoing coexistence between Nairi and Dr. Alara Hayes. Nairi, do you understand what I'm saying?" The creature blinked and nodded. Lyra smiled. "Can you tell me, in your own words, why you chose her?" Nairi looked at Alara for a long moment, then at Lyra. The translator flickered, processing the soft tones that followed. "Others need love. Human gives love." Lyra's hands trembled slightly. "And why is that special?" Nairi's golden light shimmered. "Because love, not survive. Love, promise." Alara's eyes filled with tears. She reached up, touching the small creature gently. "You understand us better than we understand ourselves." For a moment, no one spoke. The recorder kept running, capturing the hum of life, the sound of two hearts, human and alien, beating in harmony. But the galaxy never stays still. Word of Nairi's abilities reached far beyond the Union. Some saw opportunity, power. Others saw a threat to their way of life. Unmarked ships began appearing at the edges of Union space, their intentions unclear. Lyra noticed the signs first: encrypted transmissions, hush meetings, security upgrades. Someone was coming for Nairi that night. She found Alara staring out the viewport again, Nairi asleep on her lap. "You need to prepare," Lyra said quietly. "There are people who won't let this bond exist." Alara didn't look away from the stars. "They'll have to get through me first." Lyra smiled sadly. "That's what I was afraid you'd say." Nairi stirred, opening one eye. "Go," it asked softly. Alara shook her head. "Not yet. We stay." The translator flickered again, capturing a final whisper. "Stay together." Outside, the stars drifted by like silent witnesses. The galaxy had seen countless wars, endless hatred, and infinite divisions. But tonight, in a quiet lab aboard a lonely station, something stronger than fear lived, a connection that even the universe itself couldn't explain. For the first time in all recorded history, love had crossed the stars and stayed. The storm came without warning. A distant alarm shattered the quiet of the station, flashing red across every corridor. The walls trembled as the automated voice spoke through the speakers. Unidentified vessels approaching. All personnel, prepare for security lockdown. Lyra Voss ran through the narrow halls, her lab coat trailing behind her. She knew what was happening. They'd been warned. Someone had finally come for Nairi. When she reached the lab, Illyra was already there, clutching the small golden creature to her chest. Nairi's fur glowed brightly, reacting to the chaos outside. "They're scanning the station," Illyra said breathlessly. "Whoever they are, they want it." Lyra sealed the doors manually, her hands shaking. "You have to hide. The Council won't be able to protect you this time." Nairi turned its head slowly, eyes wide and shimmering. The translator flickered, struggling to keep up with its trembling voice. Fear everywhere. Illyra took a deep breath. "Then we'll face it together." The ship shook again. A shockwave rippled through the station as unknown craft latched onto the docking bay. For the first time since its discovery, the galaxy's most beloved creature was a target. Armed figures stormed in, mercenaries from a distant system, faces hidden behind black visors. Their leader, a tall being with armor marked in silver lines, pointed toward Nairi. "Take the specimen. The human, too, if necessary." Illyra stepped in front of Nairi, her voice steady despite the fear in her chest. "You'll have to kill me first." The leader tilted his head. "That can be arranged." Before he could move, the lights flickered. A hum filled the air, low and deep, like a heartbeat that belonged to the stars themselves. Nairi floated upward, glowing brighter than ever before. Its light spread across the room, washing over metal and skin alike. The mercenaries froze, blinded by the radiance. Some screamed, dropping their weapons as their suits overloaded with energy surges. Lyra shielded her eyes, shouting, "Illyra, what's it doing?" Illyra could barely speak. "It's protecting us." Nairi's voice came through the translator, stronger now, clearer than ever. "No hurt, no hate. Stop." Every being in the room, human, alien, and machine, felt the words not just in their ears, but in their minds. The glow pulsed once more, and the armed soldiers staggered back, confused. One by one, they lowered their weapons, their hands trembling. When the light faded, silence filled the lab again. The attackers stood still, eyes wide and dazed, as if waking from a dream. The leader dropped his weapon, his voice barely a whisper. "What is that thing?" Lyra's voice shook. "It's not a thing. It's what we should have been all along." Hours later, the Council arrived. They demanded explanations, data, proof. But all the sensors had failed during the surge. There was no record, no numbers, no readings, only what they had seen with their own eyes. One of the delegates spoke sharply. "You've endangered the entire station. That creature could have destroyed us all." Lyra stared at him. "It could have, but it didn't." Illyra stepped forward, still holding Nairi close. "It didn't destroy. It chose to protect. Even after everything we did to it." The delegate hesitated. "Why?" Illyra looked down at Nairi, whose light had softened to a warm golden glow. "Because it learned something from us. From humans." The room fell silent. Lyra took a slow breath. "It learned choice." Later that night, after the Council's debates had quieted, Illyra stood in the observation bay again, staring at the endless stretch of stars. Nairi floated beside her, humming softly. "You could have killed them," she said quietly. "But you didn't." The translator flickered. "Hurt? Easy. Heal? Harder. Human, heal." Illyra smiled weakly. "We try. Try, beautiful." Tears stung her eyes. "You think so?" "Yes. Human broken, but love anyway." For a long moment, she couldn't speak. She simply held the small creature close, listening to the hum of its light. When Lyra joined them, the stars outside looked almost alive. "The Council will never understand what happened," she said softly. "They'll spend centuries trying to explain it with data and equations." Elara nodded. "Let them try, but we know what it really was." Nairi turned its gaze toward the stars. "Not science. Heart." Months passed. The warships that had come for Nairi vanished beyond known space. No one ever claimed responsibility. The station rebuilt what it had lost. Life slowly returned to normal, or at least as normal as it could be when you live beside a living miracle. The Galactic Union declared Nairi a protected being, not a specimen, but a citizen. For the first time in history, an alien creature was granted the same rights as sentient species. But Nairi didn't care about titles. It cared about people. It spent its days among the crew, learning their stories, comforting the lonely, healing the brokenhearted. Everywhere it went, it brought peace. And yet, it always returned to Elara. Always. One evening, Lyra recorded her final report. For centuries, scientists believed intelligence was the peak of evolution, but perhaps it's love. Not the instinct to survive, the will to care. Humanity didn't teach Nairi to think. Humanity taught it to feel. She turned off the recorder and looked out the window. Below her, Elara and Nairi sat together, watching the stars. Nairi's voice drifted softly through the air. "Found home." Elara smiled. "Yes, little one, you did." But even as she said it, she realized something she hadn't before. It wasn't that Nairi had found a home in humanity. It was that humanity had found itself in Nairi. Somewhere in the vast, endless universe, a truth as small as a heartbeat and as big as eternity had been discovered. Humans weren't special because they were strong or clever or powerful. They were special because, even in the coldest darkness, they could still choose to love.